Thank you all for coming out, and thank you to the Wildwood Garden Club for inviting me to come out and talk about birds. And I will admit, I can talk a lot, so I'm going to try not to get off track too much and just keep on going here. I'm a volunteer with the Blackbrook Audubon Society. We are an all-volunteer Audubon chapter covering Lake Geauga and Ashtabula County, and our purpose, or our mission, is to promote conservation and preservation of ecosystems with an emphasis on birds through education and advocacy. And I can't remember when I first started birding, but I got serious probably about 20 years ago. So I'm not the greatest birder. I know some of you out here are not beginners, but I'm sure some of you are. But I hope everybody will get something out of this program. So the difference between birding and bird watching. They're often used interchangeably. Bird watchers are looking at birds. You're sitting, inside and looking out and looking at the birds. And birders are much more, I would say, active, and they're going to specific habitats to look for specific birds or look for birds in general. And both groups are using their ears as well as their eyes to help identify birds. And bird watchers are much more casual about it. And birders often will be offended if you call them a bird watcher. Just mentioning that in case you don't want to offend anybody. So how do we get started with this interest in our new hobby? So binoculars are helpful, and this shows what is helpful about binoculars. So without binoculars, let's see if I can. You're seeing a bird that it's pretty far away and you have no idea. And as the magnification goes up, you start seeing more details on the bird. And so you're looking for a good, clear, bright image in the binoculars. And you want something that's comfortable. This pair of binoculars, I have a shoulder harness on it. So instead of the binoculars hanging around my neck, the weight's distributed across my shoulders and my back. Waterproof is good. If you are out bird watching somewhere, it will often rain on you. And try them before you buy them. And eye relief is important. And so glasses users, so you want to crank the lens pieces down. So I don't know if you can see what I did there. If you're not wearing glasses, you have the lens pieces up. For glasses, you put them down so you have less of a gap between the binoculars and your eye, which is what we're trying to show there. Because ideally, when you are looking through binoculars, you're going to see the majority of what you're looking at rather than that black circle around it. And if the focal length is off, if you're wearing glasses, you're looking too far and you're going to find the black circle. Okay, I think some of you know what these birds are, but let's have a little test. What is the bird on the left?
Blue jay.
Okay, everybody knows a blue jay. How about the one on the right? Bluebird. All right, and now the one in the middle. Indigo bunting. Okay, that was my hard one. So some of you are not beginners. And so you can't just go by color. You can't just say, well, it's a bluebird. And it's like, well, no, it's not. The bird is blue, but it's not a bluebird. So some things we want to keep in mind when we're looking at birds. So the size, the color is in there. The behavior and the habitat. So if you are in the woods, you may not actually see some of the birds that hang out in fields. And it depends on your backyard, what birds you might see. So we want to look at the overall size, and then we want to look at the bill. or the beak or the bill, that they're interchangeable terms. And is the bird round and plump? And how big is it compared? Does everybody know what a robin? Okay. One time I had somebody, I said, oh, it's a robin. And they're like, how do you know? And it's like, well, how do you not know? But, you know. Okay, so we'll learn the parts of the bird. So first thing, we want to look at the head, and we want to tell, basically, you know, does it have a what color is the patch on its neck? And does it have an eye stripe? Does it go through the eye, or does it start after the eye? And does it have an eye ring, which is, you know, is it a full ring like this ovenbird? And a kinglet has it on either side, and then the parula has it on the top and bottom. And again, that's where the binoculars come in handy, because if you're, unless it's really close, you're not going to be able to see some of these details. And does the bird have a crest? And I think everybody knows what these birds are. Let's see. So what's the one on the left? No. Yes, a pileated. Sometimes called pileated, pileated. It's kind of like potato, potato. And then the one in the middle? Okay, and the other one? Okay.
What was the middle one?
The middle one is a tufted titmouse. And those are very common birds, and you are probably more apt to hear it than you are to see it. And does the bird have a mustache, which is important on the sparrows? And sparrows are a very difficult group of birds, and that's a more advanced talk, so we're not, not going there. And then the beaks are, bills are important to notice, and they're adapted for what the bird eats. So the bald eagle has a big, heavy beak for tearing things apart, whereas the hummingbird has a tiny little thin bill for getting into flowers. And the cardinal is a seed eater, so it has the bill for cracking seeds. And then, unless you're in Florida, you're probably not going to see this one on the shores of Lake Erie. But it's a southern bird, and it has a long bill for reaching under the sand and kind of feeling around for little things under the sand to eat. And owls are a separate group of birds, and their eyes are on the front of the head rather than the sides like the other birds. And eye color comes into play, but also you have let's see, those are not its ears up there. Those are just tufts of feathers. The bird's ears are actually on either side of its head, just like all birds. And then the body, you know, is it kind of plump, or is it like a tiny, petite little bird like the ruby-throated hummingbird, or is it a big bird like the sandhill crane? And then we look at the back of the bird. You know, is there any color on the back? And then we look at the tail area. And in the spring, when the warblers come through, this might be the only view you see of the bird. So there are field guides of the underside of birds so that you can help you identify what it actually is. Does it have a rump patch like the yellow rump warbler? Does it have a patch there like the harrier? And does it have distinctive tail feathers like this flicker? And then getting more into tails, does it have a cute little tail like this long-tailed duck? Does it have a red tail? Does it have spots on the tail? And so, and you don't have to do all of this at the same time. You'll start getting better at looking at the different parts of the bird and trying to figure out what you're looking at. And then the feet are adapted for where it lives. The mallard duck has feet for paddling around, whereas the coot has big feet for to kind of plant it while it's waiting. And is it like a little perching bird that's going to hang on to the limbs of trees? Or is it have big heavy talons for ripping things apart? And so once we've noticed all that, we want to look at a field guide. And there are different field guides. There's some are specific to just a single species like the warblers, or perhaps birds of a specific area that you are visiting. And the Peterson guide is probably the forerunner of all of these. That's a bird guide that got me started. So what is a field guide? So it's a pocket-sized reference book that you can carry with you. But when you're looking at, it might be a little different when you're at home and you're sitting in your chair on your deck and you can flip through the book. But ideally, you're going to be looking at the bird first and noting, the eye ring, eye stripe, the tail, and all this other stuff. Because if you start flipping through the book first, the bird's going to take off, and you think, oh, I didn't get a good look at it. So you can have there are much bigger books that you could have at home, but it's more of a way that you've already looked at the bird and gotten some ideas of what it might be before you start flipping through the book. And why is it useful to have a field guide? Because you can't remember everything. And so what can you expect to see in the field guide? You can find the different parts of the bird with the real names. And so I don't necessarily go by the real names. If somebody told me to look at the tarsus of a bird, I'd say, what are you talking about? And so that is just the legs on the bird. And I do have some handouts of that if you want a copy of the names of the parts of the bird. And it's kind of pointing out the same things that we just did about the head and the neck. And probably an important part of the field guide is the range map. So if you're looking at a bird and you're kind of debating, like, what could it be, the range map is going to become very important, because you're looking at it and thinking, well, maybe it's that, but it has never occurred here before, according to the range. So you want to, chances are it's probably not what you think it is if it's out of its range. It could be, but stick with the basics first. So it has the parts of the bird diagram, gives you some tips about finding the birds, and the variations, and we'll mention ethics shortly. So here is a page of the field guide for the northern cardinal, and you can see the difference in plumages between the male and the female. And then the juvenile looks a lot like the female, but he or she has a dark bill. And you can see it's in our range, so we're good with the cardinal. And so it's giving you the different plumages. It'll tell you the size. It'll give you some voice information, which I think that's weird, because it'll try to explain what it sounds like using words. And what the author thought it sounded like is not what I'm hearing. And so we'll practice using the field guide. Okay, so we have this bird. And I know some of you probably know what it is already, but let's figure it out. So it's daytime, and it looks like a raptor. It's got this big heavy beak on it. And let's see, it has a dark band through the middle here. I don't know if everybody can see that. And the tail feathers are kind of, I mean, they're evenly patterned. And so let's look in the field guide. So we're looking at the daytime raptors, and we can rule out, you know, it's not one of these huge birds over there, and it's, you know, definitely no white on it. So let's think it's probably something, you know, in this range, in the accipiter family. So it could be either a red-tailed hawk or a red-shouldered hawk. And according to the range maps, they are both in our area. And let me go. So here's a little more closer up. And so now we're looking, and our bird had that dark belly band, and we don't see that on the red-shouldered hawk, but it does look like it's on the red-tailed hawk. Oh, and then it did have a dark leading edge on the front of the wings, and we don't see that on the red-shouldered hawk. But it did not have a red tail, so how could it possibly be a red-tailed hawk? But it had the tail did look like that, kind of evenly spaced out there. So, did everybody guess red-tailed hawk on that? Nope. That's okay, they're hard. And so that's a red-tailed hawk again. Again, it's got the, so it's got the belly band and the dark leading edge, and it's a juvenile because it's got evenly, nice pattern on the tail, and that's what the red tail is. So the adults have this bright red tail that you will see when it's flying around. Okay, so we're going to try this. I know some of you already know what this is. Okay, so let's use the field guide to figure out what it is. So we decide it's probably a woodpecker from the way that it's kind of sitting on the suet feeder there. Kind of it's like hanging on rather than sitting down. And so it's a woodpecker. And some people had mentioned red-headed woodpecker before for the pileated. And so here's a picture of a red-headed. It has a full red head, but it doesn't have the crest, and it's more like a red hood on it. And here's the pileated, and that's a much larger bird. So we're thinking those other birds are probably, you know, in this mid-range here, or the bird that we're trying to identify. So here's our, and these birds are also called ladderbacks, or they have like the black and white pattern on the back of their wings. And so, well, here's an actual ladderback, but then we look and it's in like the southwest, and we're not in the southwest, so probably not that bird. And there's a red cockaded woodpecker that has the, you know, black and white and the pattern on it. But that one belongs in the southeast, so it's probably not that one. So it could be a downy woodpecker. Oh, but it could also be the hairy woodpecker, because they're looking a lot alike here. So we're looking at the two of them, and it tells us the size. The downy is smaller than the hairy, and it's hard to tell when you're looking through your binoculars because you're actually seeing it much larger than it otherwise would appear. Rarely can you see the two birds together, and it makes it a little easier to identify which one it could be. So we're looking at the beak, and so the downy is a smaller bird, and it has a small bill. If you were to take the bill and turn it around toward its head, it would only go to about its eye, maybe a little bit further. And the hairy woodpecker it will go like more than halfway. It will almost be as wide as its head. And then, let's see, it's telling us, okay, it's a downy woodpecker, and I know some of you will know the answer to this. Is that a male or a female?
Male.
Okay, and so this one is the female because she does not have any red on her head. So we want to get to know the size of some of the common birds. You know, we had mentioned the robin before. And then we have the ring-billed gull, are pretty common gulls. And let's see, and I think everybody is familiar with crows.
Oh, yeah.
And then the song sparrow there. And killdeers are more so in like open fields, or a lot of times they will build their nests in gravel driveways. And so their behavior matters. So is it the bird hanging out? Is it up high in the trees, or is it down near the ground? And is it when it's flying? Can you count the wing beats? Is it kind of slow, or is it crazy fast? And is it like walking around in a field? Or hopping? Sparrows hop. So if you see a bird kind of hopping around, it's probably in the sparrow family rather than other birds are walking. And are you on the shore? Is the bird kind of out in the water or chasing the waves, or is it away from the shore, poking around for stuff? And for a vulture flying, you'll be driving in your car and you'll see a big blackbird. And think, well, I don't think it's a bald eagle. I don't see the white hat on it. What might it be? A vulture will have a kind of a V shape while it's kind of tipping in the wind, and it's tipping back and forth in the wind. And so you can kind of think V for vulture. I can do that one. And then some birds do not look the same all year. And what are these birds?
Goldfinch.
Okay, it's an American goldfinch. And which one is that one?
Male.
That's the male. And so that makes that one the female. And I've had people have told me I see goldfinches all summer and then they're gone. And it's like, well, they may not be gone because goldfinches do stay here during the winter. It's just that the male looks more like she does. He loses his bright yellow color and will become or drab. And then, and what is this bird? Yes, yeah, this is a junco, sometimes called the snowbird, because we see them probably starting late October and when the snow is on the ground, and then it's come south. This is south for the juncos, and they will go further north. So they will be leaving soon. Although there are some places around the Holden Arboretum and in Geauga County that they do stay all year and nest. And another way that the birds are communicating their song, and I think everybody has heard this, the birds are starting to sing. And so they are starting to sing. And why are they starting to sing? And it's because they want to attract a mate. You know, they're starting to sing and thinking, oh, look at me, you know, look at my pretty colors, and don't you want to set up nest keeping with me? And they're also establishing their territory, saying that this is my area, and telling the other birds, stay away. And they're defending their territory. And they're also warning of danger. Let's see, blue jays are very good. Yeah, and making a fuss. If a hawk comes along, the blue jays are going to start screaming, and it alerts all the other birds, like, oh, there might be a problem. And then also, an owl will be trying to take a little snooze. You know, it's daytime, and it's kind of hanging out. And the crows start, a crow spots it, and he starts screaming to all his other friends to say, hey, there's an owl here. And so they'll all pile in and start screaming. So if you hear a mob of, or well, more than 3 crows is called a murder. So if you hear a murder of crows, start looking to see what are they fussing at. Is it an owl, or is it another hawk, or maybe a cat? There's other things that you can start looking for. So let's see if we can get the cardinal to sound. So they're pretty loud. And they're also, the male is bright red. Usually it's the male bird that is singing to attract the females. The female cardinal will also sing. Most female birds do not sing. The females are a much drabber color than the males usually. And does anybody know why that would be?
Blends in on the nest.
Yeah, because she's sitting on the nest and protecting the eggs. And the male can go out and defend and kind of distract, and she's trying to be inconspicuous on the nest. Yeah, and the blue jay has several different calls. It can mimic the red tail and the red-shouldered hawk. So if you are hearing a red tail hawk, but you're seeing a blue jay, it's the blue jay. Yeah. Okay. So you just heard the chickadee, and some people are calling it, thank you. So, okay, it's got a lot to say. Are we stuck? No, oh, we're good. So some people think the bird is saying cheeseburger somehow. I'm not hearing that at all. So I'm hearing kind of like, I'm hearing feed me, and then DDD. And so that is called a mnemonic. So it's when we are using words to just try to describe what we're hearing. So it's mnemonic, mnemonic. And so that kind of helps when you hear the feed me or the cheeseburger, that it's a chickadee. And so the mallard, I always feel like they're laughing at me, like, you're so stupid. And also the mallard is the only duck that quacks. So if you hear quacking, you know there's a mallard in the area. And let's see. Okay, the barred owl. And so in theory, you're hearing the owl say, who cooks for you? Who cooks for you all? I don't know if you, here. Let's try it again. Let's see if, yeah. Let's try again. And so some people are very good at mimicking that sound, and I don't, so that's why I'm trying to use my computer to do this. And sometimes people will hear something during the daytime that they think is an owl. And can anybody think of what that could be? I know Mo knows what this is.
Mockingbird?
Oh, probably not. Probably not a mockingbird. It's the mourning dove. That it's kind of cooing, and people hear the cooing and think it's an owl. So if you're hearing, kind of like hoo, that is most likely a mourning dove rather than an owl. And the crow. Does anybody need to hear the crow? No? Okay, we'll skip the crow. Bless you. And the white-breasted nuthatch. So we typically see white-breasted nuthatches year-round. During the winter, sometimes we have the red-breasted nuthatch that comes if we're lucky. And the red-breasted is much smaller than the white-breasted, and it sounds more like a kid's squeaky toy, or like a kid's squeaky toy or a dog's squeaky toy. It's kind of like, yeah. Oh, and another interesting fact about the white-breasted nuthatches, they will go down a tree trunk.
Yeah.
So they're going down and picking around looking for bugs, and then they will fly back up either to the same tree or a different tree and come back down. And during this time of year, we have brown creepers, which are brown, and they will go up the tree. So they will go up the tree, and then they'll fly back down to the bottom. So we're catching the bugs from either direction. And what else do I have? I don't think we need to hear a Canada goose. Everybody knows a Canada goose. And okay, now why is this one called the red-bellied woodpecker? Or I should say, if you were naming the bird, what would you have called this bird? Okay. Yes, well, so you would call it the red-headed, but we already saw that there is a bird with a full red head that is the red-headed woodpecker. And so back in the day when Roger Torrey Peterson was starting his bird book, and they were naming birds, and they used to shoot the birds, and they would have it in hand and be drawing it from their hand, and he could see that it had a little blush on its belly. And so you often are not going to see the red on a red-bellied woodpecker, or a red belly on the red-bellied woodpecker. And something else that's interesting, so this one's a male. It has the red on its head, goes all the way to its beak, and the female has this gap on the top of her head. So when you're looking at your bird feeders, and you think, oh, it's a red-bellied woodpecker, and it's like, well, which one is it? Does anybody want to hear this one? Okay, all right. So that is the red-bellied woodpecker. And now, we talked about a titmouse before. I think all of you have heard a titmouse, but you may not have known what it was. So this one you can hear from a long way off. You may never see the bird, but you know it's a tufted titmouse. And did anybody else hear it saying, Peter, Peter, Peter? And so what are birds looking for? So that they need something to eat, and they need water, and somewhere to hide, and someplace to nest. So if you can provide those things in your yard, you're going to have birds in your yard. So basically, birds eat either seeds, insects, or fruits. And so you can feed them with bird feeders in your backyard, and different birds like different seeds and different ways of getting food. And so you have birds that like the cylinder feeders that they can hang on to the feeder and kind of poke seeds out of. And other birds need a platform feeder. And all birds, well, I should say all songbirds, when they're raising their young, need to feed their young caterpillars. They can't feed them seeds. And so it's important to grow plants that will encourage bugs, and I know that's against what most of you already think, but you're trying to encourage insects to lay their eggs on your plants, so then the caterpillars will start eating the plant, and then the bird can come along and feed their baby birds insects. Caterpillars are a great food source for the babies because the adult bird will grab the moth or butterfly caterpillar, and they can just shove it down their little throats, and they're just little bags of protein for the birds. And there have been studies saying how many caterpillars birds need, and it's in the thousands to feed their babies. So they need water for drinking, and robins do love their bird baths. And so then they need someplace to hide. So we have this mourning dove, and he's just kind of hanging out, taking it easy. And a hawk comes along, and things did not end well for the mourning dove. And so I spared all of you the visual here. They need someplace to nest, as I mentioned. Some aren't real picky and will just lay eggs, in a gravel driveway. And dead trees are a wonderful source for bugs and for nesting. And eBird is a scientific database. I know some of you do eBird. And it's just a way of the sightings that you see of your birds, you're putting into a database for future scientists to know that how many birds of a certain kind we're seeing, because things are changing over time. And so it's free. You can set it up and get a free account, and then you can track the birds that you have seen. And the Merlin app, has anybody heard of the Merlin app? Okay. And so Merlin is a tool, kind of like your binoculars, but Merlin, you can either listen, you can record bird sound, and it will help you identify what the birds are. But sometimes it's wrong, and sometimes, I would say, you can use it to say, okay, there's a black-capped chickadee here somewhere, and you know what to start looking for. Birding etiquette, you want to be slow and quiet, even in your own yard, even though you're paying the rent. It's you don't want to scare them off the nest, and you don't want to yell. Sometimes people get excited when they see a bird and they point and wave, and the bird flies away before everybody else has a chance to see it. And stay on the trails, leave only footprints. So you can, this is my backyard, you can bird in your own backyard, providing what the bird needs. And so I'm trying to switch over my yard to native plants, because native plants are better for the native bugs that the native birds need to eat. You could join a organized walk. And I had mentioned to some people that Blackbrook Audubon does a big sit at Headlands Dunes. And you bring your chair, and we just sit and listen for birds, and we bring coffee and donuts. And it's a good way for people to get out that otherwise can't walk and keep up with a group. And so get out there and just have fun, either with yourself or with other people. And have my photo credits there running. That's basically all I have. So are there any questions?